All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here today to talk about the Sword of Truth, Book 4, Temple of the Winds. And here today is myself, the woke centrist, aka the Haran centrist, aka Dusty Cubes, and we have Andrew here, Sword of Mindgasms here.
Yep.
I think I finished this book about a week ago. I still have the plot pretty fresh in my mind. And what I'm going to do here is we can go ahead and just kind of quickly go over some of these plot points and then talk about them. I know right in the opening of the book, we have, what is it? I would say an attempted assassination. Well, not even a good attempt, but um, a wizard is sent to assassinate Richard Rahl. And
hmm
the way he does this is he goes and asks where Richard Rahl is and says to whoever asks that he's going to kill him. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
not a very stealthy assassin.
yeah. It's weird. The whole thing with that seems to be that he was. It's something that about how he was sent by a witch and kind of brainwashed. Oh yeah, because the witch is a dream walker, right? Which in this universe means that they kind of possess you in the space in between your thoughts, and they kind of gave him that mission. It's almost like he was sent there to be caught for some other ulterior motive, which kind of seems like what happened.
Yeah, so he was sent by Emperor Chigane, who's kind of the leader of the Blood of the Fold, or the Imperial Order. I'm sorry, that's what they're called now, the Imperial Order. He lives in the old world, and he's able to communicate, or at least enslave people, it seems like, through their minds. But it seems like he can only do this while they're sleeping. One of the things I was troubled with was I wasn't aware that nobody knew that Jacane had this ability. So when this wizard shows up, I was thinking, don't they know that the guy that sent this guy here is a dreamwalker and he can like talk to people while they're dreaming or at least take control of them? So I was like, you know what? What are they going to do with this dude? Because the moment he goes to sleep, it's going to be like game over. So they, that's what actually happens is he falls asleep and he gets completely possessed by
hmm
Jigane. So we can talk about um, someone else that shows up, right? Nadine shows up at the same time, and she's also suspected of having some type of connection to this wizard or perhaps coming under ill means. So, uh, Colin, or I'm sorry, it's not Colin, Kalen. In this new the newer audiobook that I listened to, the pronunciations were different. So Kalen was
Oh, they
called
were.
Colin. Yeah,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I seem to remember because I've read a few of them as physical books, but I listened to one of them as an audiobook, and I remember it being pronounced Kalen.
yeah. So in this other book and this newer one was a different narrator. They called her Colin. But anyway, Kalen, I'll just stick with the original. Kalen um, is trying. I like that they did focus a bit more on her because she did have her own adventure and she did do things on her own with her own agency. But in this case, she's the one that first meets up, or at least is the one that first knows about these assassins and these visitors. So she tries to take the initiative in taking care of these issues. I know for Nadine, eventually she finds out that She's there because she wants to speak to Richard, but the thing she wants to speak about is about marriage.
Right.
Um,
I
so
don't remember, was she sent there, or did she just choose to come there of her own accord?
so from what I remember, the witch woman, um, she had talked to her and told her that Richard needed her and that she was to marry Richard.
Oh,
Um,
this is the witch that later on
like,
we find out is just kind of trying to help put people along the path to what she sees as their destiny in the future, right?
yeah, so in this case, the winds spoke to the witch, and she basically um, went with whatever the winds told her to do. We do get a little twist at the end about who and what the winds are, but in this capacity, she believes that the winds are kind of like this precognitive, voice that kind of tells the future, at least tells you what needs to be done in order to fulfill prophecy and fate and stuff.
Right.
One of the other things that's happening also at the same time is there's a red moon. So what happens after they fight this wizard? Before he escapes, he um, writes a prophecy on a wall, and it's in Daharan, so not many people know what it says.
Right.
So, and then he escapes in the sewer, and then there's a battle that ensues. And um, when the wizard escapes, he's under complete control of Jagain, which is the emperor.
Hmm.
And the Mord Sith magic doesn't appear to be working on this this wizard. Was the reason why they were able to capture him in the first place is because one of the Mord Sith uh, instigated a fight with them, and the wizard used his magic against the Mord Sith. And once that happens, the Mord Sith is able to take complete control of the wizard's magic.
Okay. And the way the Mord Sith's magic is supposed to work is that they kind of absorb the powers of the person that they touch, right?
Something like that. Well, it's like more like they manipulate the magic, but the magic itself is kind of a I don't know. It kind of like creates this link of obedience, I guess. So the Mortis is able to manipulate the magic to cause pain in the host.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
how they make the host comply to their wishes.
Okay. Okay.
So there was a point where we did see like the efficacy of the Mord Sith magic, where basically I think Kara is the one that um, takes control of the wizard, and she kind of puts her power on display by telling. Um, I think they left like a sword on the ground, and he said, "Well, if you can kill me, then you're free." So he makes the attempt, and mid swing, he's just not able to do it, and he just kind of collapses in pain.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that aspect of how the Sword of Truth itself works. Like, even though he's the seeker and he's supposed to be this like all powerful person in terms of magic, Richard is. He like, you still have to you have to obey the laws of magic in terms of how the sword works, and you have to believe believe that it is actually true that this person is guilty for you to kill them. So he doesn't kill him, even though the guy is demanding to be punished for his crimes because the Sword of Truth won't let him, because he himself doesn't see him as totally guilty.
Well, what you're talking about is actually a different scene.
Oh, sorry.
The scene I'm talking about is when Akara shows how powerful her compulsion is. So she lays down a sword next to the guy, and she says, if you move from the spot, you're gonna feel unimaginable pain. But if you can kill me with that sword, I will let you go.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay.
yeah, he makes the attempt to kill her, but he's not able to. And the scene you're
Okay.
talking about is once Kaylin and Kara deal with, and they also bring Nadine with her. And what the fuck's Nadine gonna do? She's just being nosy and wants to tag
Uh,
along.
yeah,
But
she's really annoying for a lot of the book.
yeah, she's like, oh, I want to see the torture. I want to see blah blah blah. So they take her with her. So that's
Mm.
when all hell breaks loose. He escapes through like some underground aquifer, like slash sewer, and they fight down there. Kara gets injured, and um, before we talk about that scene with the Sword of Truth, um, a new character shows up here to help with Kara's injuries, and it's Druffin, which we find out is touting himself as a high priest of a certain order that has to deal with healing and stuff like that.
And using magic to heal, right?
Well, he's not a magician, but he's able to. It's almost like he manipulates other people's magic to help heal, but he doesn't have magic himself.
Yeah, it's interesting that way. It's kind of similar to the Mord Sith in a way, right? Because they don't have magic themselves too. They kind of their power is that they kind of use the magic of whoever they're attacking or defending against.
Yeah, so he seems to have some type of insight on magical melodies, but he himself cannot like cast any or use any magic.
Right.
So do you remember some of the things he performed on Kara to triage her illness or her injury?
Yeah, that's the like really creepy rapey part where Kaylin gets mad at him because he feels her tits. He goes, "No, this is how it's supposed to work. Look, one breast is cold and one breast is hot. That tells me what's happening." And then he even fingers her at one point too.
But why? I don't even remember why he fingers her. That's just kind of weird.
That had some weird, shitty justification too. Although, I mean, within the context of the book, I guess the author Terry Goodkind is kind of allowing us to kind of trying to convey to us that, oh, okay, well, with the rules of the magic system, that makes sense. But that that part was just kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah. So yeah, they did some interesting things though with the healing. I think he cast like a net of smoke and was like manipulating certain threads in order to get certain like biological feedback. So I thought that was pretty interesting the way it played out. But what we find out though is this man named Dreffin is actually a bastard child of Richard's dad. So they're
Yeah,
basically half brothers.
Dark and Rawl, who was the formal evil main bad guy in the first book, and is also Richard's father, so he's Richard's half brother, right?
Yeah, and I know that like whenever we have Kalen's point of view, there's a lot of talk of his tight pants and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, so he's basically his brother. He came, and throughout like the beginning of the book, they're pretty suspicious about why he showed up because um, Richard references part of a prophecy saying like the winds will hunt him, and he believes that that has something to do with his half brother showing up. So, from what I know, it seems like after Richard and he meet, he kind of wants to keep a close eye on him to see what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
also, Kaylin wants to keep a close eye on, um, what's her name? What's the
Nadine?
girl?
Nadine?
Nadine, because she's suspicious of her as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard, like, can't. It's funny because when they meet, it seems like Richard just straight up, like, does not like Nadine at all, and he's very
Yeah.
vocal about it. Well, at least
Yeah. We are
vocal and
never going to marry. I don't love you. I love Kaylin. You're
right.
crazy. Go away.
Yeah, and we do kind of find out that she is pretty delusional. Um, Especially when actually she lied initially to Kaylin about how they met. Um, and then I guess Kaylin eventually figures it out that it was a lie and asks Richard more about it. And apparently, like, she concocted some stupid ass plan that was so dumb. But her plan was like, oh, let me stage a scenario in which I'm going to have sex with Richard's brother and him walk in on us, and then that's going to entice him to like join in on a threesome or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, this
You'll have a devil's three-way with your half brother, right?
yeah, so it was totally dumb, and well, at least Nadine is like ridiculously delusional. Um, and there are just like some points, some of the stuff she would say, just wanted to like slap her in the face.
Yeah.
Like especially at the end, I just want someone to punch her in the face. But anyway, so yeah, all this crap is going on, and then there's this this prophecy that's alluded to. I know throughout the first part of the book, Richard pretty much keeps it under wraps. He doesn't tell anybody what this prophecy says. And all the while this is going on, there's also some trouble going on in town. So one of the things we see is like this we see these POV chapters, what appears to be like some type of serial killer that's been killing
Yeah.
prostitutes.
Yeah, that part is interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty grim because it goes into some pretty gruesome detail.
Yeah, and
Um,
he literally gets turned on by murdering that first prostitute who he murders that we see, right?
yeah, he basically like paralyzes her, and then um, does he have sex with the body? I think she was
Oh.
still alive. She was just paralyzed.
I don't think it tells us like I think his point of view chapter ends before we see what happens next after he's killed her.
Yeah, so anyway, the word of this event travels back to Richard, and he actually suspects his brother because he also hears that his brother has been visiting brothels as well.
Hmm.
So this it basically behooves him to keep an even closer eye on him. And then I guess there's kind of like this conflict where he really would like to trust his brother because he doesn't really have any family. But
Hmm.
then again, you know, even his real brother was kind of like a douche, and
Yeah.
he had killed him. So this guy's like on a trial basis right now.
Hmm.
So one of the other things that's been going on as well, um, they're trying to figure out what this prophecy means, and eventually, what happens is I don't remember if Kaylin leaves before or after. Well, I know Kaylin leaves because she knows that Nadine was manipulated by Shoda, the witch woman. and like her first instinct is like she wants to go kill Shota for doing this. I thought that was
Hmm.
kind of like a ridiculous reaction to what happened. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. That was an extreme reaction. There were maybe a handful of parts in this that seem like really extreme and sudden reactions, and a few of them seem to be major. That seems like one common criticism of Terry Goodkind that I agree with for the most part.
Yeah, like I don't know, like the reactions of some of these characters just seem like I don't know, just like caricatures, melodramatic, just kind of over the top and unexpected. So her first reaction is, I need to go kill Shota because she sent this woman Nadine to ruin my marriage that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
So I'm trying to remember if she had. I don't know if they knew about the plague yet, but um,
I don't think they do at this point. Do
okay.
they?
So I'm not sure, but I know Kaylin goes on a little bit of adventure with the Sylph or the Sliff or whatever that thing's name is. Thing that says,
I think it's the Sliff.
"Yeah, let's travel. I want to travel.
It will please
Let's
you.
travel together." It's just funny that the audiobook is hilarious because the Sliff's voice, they put like an effect on it. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, I
really?
want to travel. Yeah, because it's like
Oh, okay.
anytime someone is thinking or if it's like a otherworldly being, they put like a voice effect. It was funny. I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
man, why does like Terry Goodkind and I noticed too, like when it comes to dialogue and writing in general, like he is like really repetitious. Um, like a ridiculous degree. Like a character will basically say the same thing rephrased like three times in a row. It's like, man, I got it the first time. Like, that's all of his characters basically do this. I think it's just an editing problem. But anyway,
I wonder if it's that or if it's like he's trying to convey maybe that the character is just reiterating what they said to try to be more clear about it.
yeah, but all
Maybe,
the characters do this.
yeah, I don't know why they would all do that.
Yeah, the next Good Kind book, pay special attention to how many times he reiterates the same information, just like phrased differently. Like he'll do that right. Like he'll literally say one thing and then he'll rephrase the thing that conveys the same thing, like the next sentence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of repetition of dialogue, and I don't mean like yes, the Sliff is a special case because she literally says the same thing
Mhm.
multiple times, but the other characters have a similar um, like structure to the Sliff and how they talk, except they'll rearrange the sentence so that it's basically the same thing. It's just rearranged. But
Like
anyway,
the dialogue is the same sort of structure with different characters. Yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah, yeah. It's especially anytime we get like Kaylin and Richard talking about their relationship. Like nobody fucking talks like that in real life or in fake life or in any life. It's I don't know. We'll get there, but and there are some plot holes I wanted to discuss too when we get there. But
I
so
noticed one or two also, yeah.
yeah, especially the end. So Kaylin visits Shota, um, and there are a couple issues. I guess what happened is Samuel attacked Kaylin. So Kaylin thought that Shota was basically there, was going to hurt her in some way anyway. So when she confronts Shota about what happened, Shota basically tells her that this wasn't her idea, and she was told this through the winds, and it wasn't her intention to hurt Richard and Kaylin. And Kaylin says, "Well, why did Samuel did this?" And then she basically talks to Samuel, and we find out that Samuel went against her orders, which was not to harm Kaylin. And they come to understanding that Shota's not a bad person. I never really thought Shota was a bad person. Like, even in the first book where they actually meet her, she didn't really seem bad to me.
I don't really
But,
remember much about her from the first book.
well, in the first book, she had captured Kaylin, and her reason was because she didn't want Richard and Kaylin to create a male confessor, that the chances were too high.
Okay.
And male confessors, I guess, are kind of like evil Kwisatz Haderach or something.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you make a male confessor, it's just like disaster for the world.
Yeah.
So
Kind of
she was
like
trying to do.
kind of like a male channeler or the dragon in Wheel of Time.
Yeah, something similar to that. Where so she was trying to prevent that, but it didn't seem like she had like really ill will towards Kaylin or Richard personally. I know when they leave Shota in the first book, they just leave. So it's not like they escape while battling for their lives. They kind of talk about their motivations, and then they just kind of leave it at that. So in this case, Shota talks Kaylin down and saying, "Hey, I'm not doing this to like destroy your relationship. This is basically the spirits talking through me. You know, I guess the good spirits. I was talking about the good spirits,
Right.
which is kind of like their theology revolves around the good spirits and the bad spirits and whatnot. So
Mhm.
anyway, she leaves Shota and then takes a lift back, and then Richard is waiting, I believe, there. And he's pretty mad because she kind of left unannounced. She didn't tell anybody where she was going, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
this is when she snuck away in the middle of the night.
yeah,
Okay.
so she tells him what happened. She doesn't give him all the info. She holds some of it back, and he suspects that. But he is like, gets super pissed off and wants to go and kill Shota now. So Kaylin's like trying to talk him down. There's like a lot of instances where he gets like he becomes like irrationally angry at things, it seems, quite
Yeah.
a bit in this
Yeah,
book.
this is why I think we always seem to agree that the main character, Richard Rahl, is the most boring and one-dimensional and predictable character and annoying character out of all of them for the most part.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because when Nadine shows up and she's like super delusional, she's like, "Oh, you're just a field guide," and you see him like ordering soldiers around, and it's like, "This, what's wrong with this bitch? This is
Yeah.
stupid, stupid
Yeah.
idea."
She's annoying all the way throughout this book for sure.
Yeah, totally. So, now I guess we can address like the plague. So, there is a plague going on in the city, and they try many different measures to try to curtail it, including like quarantining and quarantining armies and stuff like that, to keep the spread at bay. Um, they find out that the plague initially is started with a young kid who was playing some type of sport that they play in their city, And when they interview some of these kids, they find out that some woman was showing these kids like some sparkly lights, and then after they saw those lights, they then came down with the plague.
Hmm.
And it, from what they got, the information they got from that wizard that they killed, the wizard had traveled with a woman who was also had the gift, so they suspected that the woman was a sister of the dark or whatever.
Right. So
So
yeah, this is interesting because and it's not until later on in the book that we find out that the plague was actually started by magic too, right?
right, right. All right, so I guess we could talk about some of the other characters that are having their other adventures alongside. So we have Zed and Anne, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Zed and Anne are, well, Anne has Zed under IDOM or whatever the hell they call them. What are they called? Radahans or something.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what it's called, Radahan.
So she has forcibly taken Zed on her quest, and they're looking for another. Well, he's not. Well, I guess he is a wizard, but he's a prophet named Nathan who got loose. And a
Right.
loose prophet is really dangerous because a prophet, if they are in the hands of the wrong person, then it can cause some problems. So they're hunting down this prophet. Um, And they get led to a town where they thought the prophet was, but what they ended up doing was um, they followed a guy that the prophet had paid to make it look like he was the prophet. And I think they found him at a brothel.
Right.
And while they're interrogating this guy at the brothel, a sister of the dark comes in and attacks them. And I think they basically like burned the brothel down, and a bunch of people died during that.
Yeah.
And then they find out that I think they do eventually find out that Nathan is like on a really important quest, and he tasks and Zed with their own quest.
Hmm.
Um, and
And
trust Nathan.
Zed is like the, for people who don't know, Zed is like the kind of wizard slash Gandalf character, like from Lord of the Rings, kind of, right? And Anne is, she has magic powers too, and she's kind of like how
He's
would
like
you
the
describe
former
her?
Armelin seat, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good description. Yeah.
So she was like the head of an order of women who taught young men to use their magic. I forgot what the title is called. It's not Armelin Seed, it's something else. I just completely am blanking on the title of that person
Yeah,
because the new
me
person
too.
that has the title now is Verna. So she's
Right.
the current one. That's the leader. Anne is presumed dead at this moment, and Verna is the only one that knows that she's still alive, and they communicate through um, a book that they can write messages to each other in.
Yeah, that's interesting. That part's interesting how they write messages, and then the other person who is writing messages in that book in a different location, they see the words that that person has written forming in the book that they're looking at, and then they write messages back to them. It's like magic texting kind of.
Yeah, it's like that one device in Stormlight Archive. I forgot what it's called. It's called like a friend writer or something like that. But anyway, they're in contact with each other. So Nathan basically tells Zed and Anne that he's off doing something and he needs them to do some other task because of some prophecy. So I know he's in like another city, another town somewhere where the Imperial Order has taken, and they're enslaving a bunch of people. And then we get another character here. I think her name is Cassandra or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, anyway, she's um, a scribe. She works in the library, and as they sack this city, they enslave her, possibly to be a comfort woman. It's not very sure what they were going to use her as. But in a last minute play, Nathan shows up in this town and does a lot of manipulation in order to get her out and in order for her to join his cause because he's like, hey, you can stay here with all these rapey dudes and you're probably going to be raped, even though
Yeah.
you think this silver ring in your mouth is going to do anything. Because I think there were like
Oh,
different ranks of
yeah, yeah.
slaves.
When they first came there and they were making everyone into slaves, I think they would give most like they basically gave everyone else the gold rings, and she thinks that the silver ring is protecting her because I don't know because it gives her a different rank or something.
Yeah, because I know there's like bronze, silver, and gold. And she was just happy she didn't get bronze because that meant that she wasn't ugly.
Right,
Because she
right.
saw that they were giving all the uglier and older women like bronze rings, but she knows she's not like the prettiest and youngest, so a silver was like fine. But it
Oh
didn't really
yeah,
matter anyway because they were all gonna get raped.
and she gets so devoted to Nathan eventually because he uses his magic powers to make her more attractive, right?
Yeah, there's a point when they're on the run and they have to kind of mix in with some people, like disguise themselves. So he uses like magic to make her look more attractive. And then there is a point where they just kind of fall for each other and, get it on and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he does save her from a life of repeated rape, and they do become travel companions. And I guess we can just talk about more about what happens with like Richard and Kaylin. I know Kaylin goes off on another adventure because there's a couple other things that happen. Like shortly after that, Zed and Anne get captured by because the area that they travel to, I think they're looking for something called the Jacobo treasure.
Right.
So
The
that's
yeah.
what they were tasked by Nathan to search for. Zed thinks he has a general idea that it might be in the wilds, which is where a bunch of tribes people live. And apparently, one of those tribes people have like these anti magic abilities, and they get captured by those tribesmen.
Right.
Um, and they get eventually sold. But before then, so we have that going on. We have Nathan doing his thing, and then back to the plague. So Kalian um, is trying to help stop the plague. I know Richard's like super busy and he's off looking for the Temple of the Winds. I know Richard himself goes to the mountain where the temple is at and is basically it looks like a mountain got chopped in half and half the mountain's missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the Temple of the Winds, where he needed to go to fix this plague, is not there. And while Richard is doing his thing looking for this temple, Kaylin goes to go search for this Jacopo treasure. And she asked a Sliff to take her there. And I think she's like appears in a cave, and then Chandelin is in there.
Who's that again?
Chandelin is one of the mud people who initially hated Kalen because Kalen had killed his chieftain. But throughout their travels in book two, Chandlin became an ally because she was traveling with three different mud people, and it turns out that the other two mud people were like evil,
Okay.
and he had helped to kill one of them, I think. And but Chandlin is he's like he takes Kalen back to like the mud village, I think, the mud people village, and I forgot what the significance of her going back to the mud people was.
Oh,
But
she was trying to get their help with
oh, she
uh
wanted to talk to the spirits. That's right.
right, yeah.
Yeah, so in order to talk to the spirits, they have to do like this gathering where she gets like buck naked and takes some ayahuasca and talks to those spirits. So the spirits basically puppet what she had heard earlier from Shoda, which was she was not going to marry Richard. And then basically everything for the end of the book is said to her that she's not going to marry Richard, and she's going to have to marry someone else, and then Richard was going to marry somebody else. And I don't think she knew who that somebody was yet at this point. She just knew
Right.
that she was
Yeah.
not going to marry Richard, and that's what the spirits had told her.
Right. Yeah,
And
there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens with fate
yeah, that's a big
and
ass book, man. It's like
yeah,
it was 27 hours.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens like that, and there's a lot of stuff that happens with Fate and Richard and Kaylin fighting to be with each other, and like love and all the troubles they face with their relationship throughout this through like super deeply cosmic circumstances.
Yeah, a lot of this revolves around prophecy and how it's going to affect them. So at this point in the book, it is known that there's kind of like this prophecy that's been enacted by Jagain, and this is what he made known when he was taking over the wizard's body, and it was a double bind prophecy. And it's so slowly uncovered that basically this prophecy is unchangeable. Um, so at this point, I think Kaylin is like really distraught about the news she heard from the spirits.
Yeah, of course.
Um, and she knows that the Temple of the Winds is involved at this point. But I think she talk to Denna too? Also, did Denna make herself known here, or was that at some other time? I know Denna shows up again in spirit form, but
Uh,
I think it's later, maybe.
I think it's later, yeah.
All right. Well, after her gathering with the spirits, she finds that Zed and Anne are in the village, and apparently the tribe that had purchased them to do like menial labor and chores didn't want them anymore, so they sold them to cannibals. And those cannibals just happened to be the mud people. So they got really lucky because Chandelin knew who Zed was. So he's like, yeah, we will buy them. So they're reunited now. Um, and all the while, um, Nathan is making deals with Jagain. And I was like pissed. I was like, Nathan, what's going on here, man? As he went he had met with some of Jagain's messengers and basically tried to cut a deal that he was gonna help kill Richard, or at least after Richard was dead, he would become the Lord of Dahara. and all of his armies would be loyal to him. And he wanted to cut a deal with Jagain and be second in command in exchange for um, letting the soldiers do what they needed to do to take over. So we're like, man, I thought Nathan was a good person. Apparently, he's a freaking asshole. That's how I felt at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
And they did a pretty good job here later on. But so Kaylin returns, I believe, and they find out all they need to do about the Temple of the Winds. Hope I'm not leaving too much like meaty stuff in the middle. I know there's another prostitute gets killed in the city, and there's another assassination plot, and this is before they go to the temple. So the other assassination plot is, oh man, there's so much political stuff going on in this book too. So one of the an envoy is sent to deliberate with the Daharian government. And this, I forgot the name. I think it was like Tristram. I could be wrong. Is it Tristan or something like that?
I think it was Tristan.
Tristan. So he comes and he deliberates with them and basically says, no, we're going to stay neutral. We're not going to ally ourselves with you or with the Imperial Order.
Right.
And all this time they're trying to convince him that that's not the case. But finally, eventually, what happens is the same Tristram tries to assassinate Caitlin, and he gets caught. And this is what I don't get at all. Richard wanted to kill him immediately. But Kaylin's like, let me use my confessor power, and then we can get all the info we can out of him. And Richard's like, no, he needs to die. We have to kill him. And it's like, dude, like, just let her, if you're going to kill him, let her use the confessor power, you know, get all the info you need out of him, and then kill him.
Yeah, like we were talking about before, he's such a one-dimensional character. Anger, kill.
Yeah, so anyway, what did they learn from this guy? They suspect that he is the guy that's been like murdering these prostitutes. So yeah, I forgot what happens with this guy next, but another thing happens where some type of creatures that look human but are not human show up, and apparently they're like super annoying to deal with. And Kaylin's like, oh yeah, we just need to give them a message and they'll be happy to like leave our presence because they're very annoying. So they show up in court and they're like, hey, Kaylin's like, oh, let me give you a message. I was like, no, sorry, I'm not going to do that. So they were shocked. And then so I got a message from you. Basically, the message for her was, it was basically a message from the wind about what they needed to do for the prophecy. Richard got very pissed off because he believes that if he received this message earlier, he could have helped more people survive this plague. And this leader of the group was like, I think he was just stopping by places and getting drunk, and that was his excuse for being late. So Richard just like punches him in the face.
Right.
So I guess one of the Mord Sith enticed this creature of magic to do magic against her so that the creature could not hurt Richard. So anyway, they get kind of the last piece of the puzzle of what they need to do. And what he tells them is basically reiterating that they cannot wed each other and they have to wed very specific people this time.
Right.
And at this point, Kara, who is one of the Mord Sith, she has access to this magic now. So she can also speak for the winds. So they're able to talk to her and get more information about it. So apparently, they're getting explicit instructions at this point, and they're like, "Yeah, Kaylin, you got to marry um, Druffin, and you, Richard, have to marry Nadine." Like they are very specific on what they have to do. They have to say, "Oh, you have to be loyal to these your spouses. You can't cheat. Um, Kaylin, you got to give up your magic." And they're like all of these conditions and stipulations in order for them to stop this plague. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, what else is going on during this time? I believe Verna infiltrated Jagain's stronghold, and she's trying to save one of these women that Jagain has captured. I also forgot to mention Warren is with her, and apparently Warren is like dying of the gift, and he needs
Oh,
someone.
right. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
he's a prophet, but he got his powers pretty like his prophet powers are pretty new, but he doesn't have a Radahan to help him with that gift, so he's dying of the headaches that Richard had in the second book. Yeah, there's
And
a
how
lot of shit
come
going on, man.
and how did Richard fix that for himself? I don't remember.
Um, they trained him. He got trained in the White Tower on how to do it for himself.
Okay.
um, but yeah, next thing that happens. Well, I don't know the exact next thing. I'm just trying to think of all the other threads that are going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on simultaneously. Well, throughout the book too. I mean, a lot of it takes place just like at basically the equivalent of the White Tower, like you said, which is less interesting to me. But there's a lot of other stuff going on, like that guy who's going around killing prostitutes, and the stuff that's happening with Zed and Anne, and then there's the prophecy, and there are the other people with magic powers with their own with their own agendas, and then there's the plague, which was aided by magic. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, so, oh shit, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. When Kaylin goes off on her little adventure, she also runs into Nathan. Um,
Oh, right, right.
yeah, so, and this was when she was looking for the Jacoba treasure or whatever. She runs into Nathan, and she saves Nathan, and Nathan saves her. As what was happening is we finally find out that Nathan is not an evil prick, and he was going to double cross Jagain. And she gives Nathan gives her like some special words she needs to speak in order to save. Oh, this is later. I'm sorry. I'm like jumping way fucking ahead here.
Okay.
Let me get back to like what we need to talk about, which is like the Temple of the Winds. Okay. This is where I think the plot hole for me. This was the plot hole for me. So anyway, they have to go through this marriage. Kara, and then they find out, like right after they get married, that consummation of the marriage is required. And I believe the POV from this is strictly from Kaylin, and she's freaking the
Yeah,
fuck
this
out.
this part is fucking weird, man.
Yeah, she's freaking out. Um, oh, what do you want to say? Because this is strange.
It's really
Um,
creepy. Like it's
yeah,
from Kaylin's perspective. So and it's dark and it's at night. So she can't really see who it is. So she has sex with Dreffin presumably and really doesn't enjoy it. And she hears uh what she thinks is Richard having fun with Nadine, so it makes her jealous. And then she
Uh-huh.
wonders, well, I wonder if the specific words mean that I have to enjoy it too, and I have to come. So she starts to pretend to enjoy it and get like more kinky about it, and she gives him a blowjob, and then eventually she has enjoyed it. And then and then she says, Dreffin, you have to promise to never ever tell Richard about this. And then he says, I think Richard already knows. And then it's revealed that Richard did this weird some sort of magic thing where they switch bodies without her or Nadine either Kaylin or Nadine knowing about it.
Well, what
Which
happened was Kara, who had sworn fealty to Kaylin, she later admits that she made sure that she brought her to Richard because she promised that she would make sure that she would get married to Richard
right.
or something like that. So it was Kara who made the swap. But anyway, after they get it on, like eventually what they were required to do triggered, and he was able to go to the Temple of the Winds. This shit made no sense to me because it's like, how does this get around? Like they were supposed to, she was supposed to consummate it with Dreffin, but that didn't happen. So how was Richard able to enter the temple if they didn't perform what they were asked to perform?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a few times at least throughout the book where you think you can't do this because destiny and magic and stuff, and then they just circumnavigate the rules and do it anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, Richard goes to like purgatory or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
basically, it's the space in between the two worlds, right? So yeah,
yeah, and then Aelin is stuck with Dreffin, and we find out that Dreffin is some of Megla, the maniacal asshole.
yeah.
Um,
That part seemed like unbelievable to me too, because throughout most of the book, we see that it seems like he actually might be a genuinely good guy, and it seems like he's trying to help Richard and Kaylin, and then this part sort of seems like just a sudden snap from out of nowhere. Like usually in books, when that sort of thing is going to happen, often you don't expect it, but it's not this sudden complete shift as in their aspects of their fake personality that are part of it, or maybe they still have shreds of sympathy for the characters, or maybe there was a little bit of foreshadowing for this moment, even if it was super subtle, like the way Brandon Sanderson does it sometimes. But the extremity of this and the suddenness of this switch just seemed way completely ridiculous to me.
yeah, I was like, okay, this guy's bad now. I was like, okay, this
Yeah,
dude that's a healer is now kind of like this narcissistic asshole now.
yeah.
So, what's been happening now too, since Richard is presumed dead, this kind of pact that protects them from Jagain is now broken.
Hmm.
So
And
we get
sorry, who's Jagain again? Is that
Jagain is
the
the emperor of the Imperial Order, the
oh, okay.
Dreamwalker
Okay.
guy.
Okay, right.
So this freeze. So what happens is the army is no longer cohesive. So we see a lot of mutinies and stuff. And another thing that happens is that protection is no longer there. So if we go to Verna's story, she goes to pick up the sister or her best friend who was under Jagain's spell, and they notice that they're not able to get the pact again, which causes a lot of problems.
Hmm.
But then she says, I think at this point Nathan becomes the Lord Rawl, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So Nathan becomes the Lord Rawl. And they have to kind of re-swear their oath, not to Richard, but to Nathan. So they do an oath re-swearing, and they go back to Nathan. And I know eventually something happens there. So Kaylin, she's like depressed. She hates Druffin. Druffin's just like ruining everything. Druffin doesn't give a shit about the Midlands, and he just wants to retreat back to Dahara. And he wants to use like some really authoritarian measures. He said that he wants to kill like all of the officers of the mutinying regiments of the army.
Right.
Like basically, it's like being an asshole. So I think at this point, also the one thing to note is that the plague has actually been cured. No plague
Right.
anymore.
Oh,
So,
and that happened with some sort of magic aid, I think, right? How did it happen
well,
exactly again?
it's because it's when Richard went into the Temple of the Winds. He gained all the knowledge of magic that came with, and he was able to stop the plague.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple things happened too. Kaylin escapes, and she go to Nathan, I believe. Oh no no no! What happens is oh yeah, that's right. So Richard comes back, I guess, from purgatory, and he shows up in this lift, like traveling area. Um, and also, one of the lesbian Mord Sith died from the plague.
Right.
I forgot to mention that. Um, I think Reyna was the name of the lesbian Mord Sith that died.
Okay.
Oh, anyway, Kara, um, she gets Kaylin and said, "Hey, come with me." And look, it's freaking Richard. He's happy as fuck because Richard's back. Richard has some terrible news. He just came back because he wanted to apologize for being a cuck, like a virtual cuck. Is that
Yeah.
what happened? He was like a virtual cuck? Is that how would you explain this?
That's a good explanation, actually. Yeah. Because yeah, because he's just like, well, I don't know, you can do that, I get, you can do that, I guess. I don't like it, but yeah.
Because that was the betrayal. Because in order to enter the Temple of the Winds, he had to be betrayed.
Right.
And that was
And
the condition that she was thinking of, that she was with Dreffin and having like a great time while having
yeah,
sex with them. And
and
then
that was
Richard saw.
the actual betrayal, which she kind of like did herself in a way. Like she did it as a way to try to avoid betraying Richard in a way that he wouldn't expect, but then she betrays him in an even worse way than he could have expected, seemingly, at least according to the characters.
Yeah, so it wasn't, from what I know, Kaylin was trying to open the path to the Temple of the Winds, but she believed that it wasn't happening. So she was trying that as a solution to open the path, that she had to be into it, I guess. So
Right.
she got into the sex, but it was actually Richard observed this, and he was like super pissed off because she seemed like she was enjoying herself with Druffin. So one of the other things we forgot to say is that what the hell? Nadine is dead,
Yeah, yeah, she got killed.
and I was like happy she got killed because when Nadine found out that she was going to marry Druff or marry Richard, and that they were going to consummate their marriages, she was rubbing it in Kaylin's face.
Yeah.
I was like, this bitch needs to die, man.
Oh
That's
yeah,
fucked up.
and then she runs off the cliff that's near them and commits suicide when she
Well,
finds out that
actually,
she actually
that's
had
the
sex with Drevin.
no, that's the story that Druffin told everybody.
Oh,
But
okay.
the reality was is that he pushed her off the cliff.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, he pushed her off the cliff. He killed her.
Okay.
Um, so anyway, so Richard comes back and he's like, "Oh no, I'm just gonna die. I just came here to tell you I love you and to apologize because I'm gonna die anyway." And she's like, "Well, why are you gonna die?" He's like, "Oh, I had the plague, and that's it." But before he left, one of his conditions was like basically they're gonna wipe his memory about the magic. And before he left, he wrote down like some instructions on how to cure himself, but he had not any knowledge or memory of it. Kaylin looks at his hands and she's like, "Oh, this is a clue. This is what I need to do." And she has to find some type of book, right?
Right.
So she goes off to find this book through the slip. Apparently, this leads her to Nathan, and that's when Nathan reveals that he was going to double cross Jagain. I was like, yes, Nathan's not bad after
Right.
all. So yeah, it's like a pretty cool how I thought this was clever, pretty clever of Terry Goodkind. How he kind of weaves. He made this prophecy and he made it definitely a part of the story. And I like that he was able to weave that into this plot, even though, a lot of these prophecy plots tend to be overplayed. But I thought that he did a really good job with Nathan and how prophecies still require a prophet, even though like the words are there.
Hmm.
You might read the words, but without the prophet's vision, you might not know what that really actually means.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
had prophesied everything. So up until this point, he knew she was going to show up. He was just kind of waiting for Kaylin, and he knew he had to give her some words. And these were like the three chimes or whatever the hell they are. It's like, you got
Hmm.
to say these three words in between this page when you use the black sand and the white sand. So she's given instructions. Like, okay, let me go
Yeah.
save Richard because
Yeah.
he's alive.
Yeah, I like
But
that. I like that too, how you have to follow these specific instructions because the well, I guess there are multiple magic systems, but the magic systems in general in this world seem like mostly soft magic systems, but
Mhm.
those specific aspects like that seem more like harder magic systems, which is why they seem interesting to me.
Right, right. Um, so, next thing that happens, so she goes back, she travels back. Lift, let's travel. Come on, let's travel. You will enjoy traveling with me. She goes back with this lift,
You
and
will be pleased.
you will be pleased. Let's travel. And when she arrives, Dreffin is waiting. And no, he's not waiting. I think, no, definitely. Well, I don't remember if Dreffin is there, but he's either way. She comes there with the book and she starts to help Richard, but she forgot what the three letters or the three chimes were.
Right.
And I think Dreffin shows up at this point, and I consider this part of plot hole. Richard and Dreffin get in a fight, and Richard rips out his spine
Mm-hmm.
um,
My reaction
with his
was, how
bare
the fuck
hand.
did he do that, man? Holy shit.
Yeah, so with his bare hand, he ripped out Dreffin's spine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the reaching through the front of him too.
Yeah. So that would have obvious effects. So while they're dealing with that, they rip out Druffin's spine, and Kaylin's trying to do the procedure, and she forgets like the words, and she's having a hard time. And I believe like during this time, Druffin is still mobile, and he fucking tries to kill somebody. I was like, dude, he has no fucking spine.
Yeah, yeah, that was ridiculous too.
Like this shit made no sense. I was like, how can somebody without a spine can still continue to fight? It just made zero sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on here? Well, anyway, how they killed Dreffen? What do? They knock him into the sliff or something?
Yeah, basically, and it kind of grabs him and then pulls it back into travel to somewhere else, right?
Well, since Dreffen doesn't know magic, it kills him because you have to have magic in order to travel the sliff.
Right, because they had succeeded. Kalen had succeeded in doing that series of instructions that took away his magic. Right? Is that how it
Yeah, and
worked?
no, Dreffen never had magic.
Oh,
He,
what? Oh, right. Because that's how his healing powers worked. I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't actually have any magic. So when he gets pushed into the sliff, I think he just turns into blood. Um, and I forgot to mention the sliff was a former prostitute.
Yeah. It mentions that to Kaylin earlier on before she talks to uh before she talks to that witch who we mentioned before and actually sympathizes with her, I think, right? Or around that time.
Well, one of the things we find out is that we find out a little bit of history of like this magic system. I know one of the old mages that that had something to do with the Temple of the Winds. I don't know their names, but this wizard had imprisoned her because I think she was like going to tell his wife that he was seeing a prostitute or some shit like that.
Right.
I remember it was like really convoluted.
Yeah.
What I do know is that the Sliff is a former prostitute,
Right.
and this was kind of triggering for Druffin because his mother was also a former prostitute or was a prostitute.
Right.
Um, and his thing was like, oh, my mom was a piece of crap, but in reality, his mom did everything she could to protect him because all bastard children of Dark and Raw were, if found out, were murdered, especially if they didn't have any magic. If they
Mm-hmm.
had magic, then they would be taken care of, but if not, they were killed simply.
Yeah,
So he would have been killed if Dark and Raw knew of his existence.
for sure.
Well, anyway, Druffin dies. Um, she says the three chimes, and the magic that was within Richard, the one that was causing the plague, is sealed, and he is good to go. I know in the epilogue, we find out that apparently these bad things happen when you say these three chimes, and she said them a few times. So I expect the next book has something to do about the consequences of using those three chimes. So we'll have
Yeah,
to see what that is.
yeah, that would totally make sense. Yeah.
Because Jagain hasn't been dealt with. I'm guessing this next one or two books they're gonna deal with this character in some form or fashion.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well that's the book. Lots of sappy dialogue between Halen and Richard.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the sappiness is just like, I don't know, his inner dialogue with himself when he's in purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was like, man, Richard is such a cuck, man.
Yeah.
Like a virtual cuck. And he's like, oh, it's my fault. And I need to ask for my forgiveness. And I was like trying to reason out, like, how is forgiveness? That was kind of thing. Yeah, I don't see how, the only thing I could see how you would need to apologize for us, like for walking out in the world and causing more problems. Um,
Yeah.
for walking out on the world, but I don't know. His reaction was somewhat appropriate.
Yeah, somewhat.
It's not completely justified, but I think the thing that wasn't justified is that he became like suicidal from it. It's like, dude, he didn't
Yeah.
actually fuck Dreffen. Like, what's wrong with
Yeah.
you? He overreacted for sure, though.
Yeah, I would
I
say
would say
so.
that.
Yeah.
Oh man, lots of overreactions, especially from Richard. He just like overacts at fucking everything.
Yeah.
He's a walking drama machine. But overall, much better than than the book we read before this.
Yeah, for sure. I think we were talking before we started this about how we both agreed that this was not the best book, but far better than the third one, which was the absolute worst, and we both hated it. I don't remember what your assessment was in comparison to the rest of the books in this series. Like I think maybe we both liked book two the most, and I
Mhm.
thought book one was pretty good too. So for me, this one was my third favorite, but it's still a pretty good book because the third one was so fucking terrible.
Yeah, third book was just so bad. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say one thing I liked about this one is they didn't get into his ridiculous political stances. I'm assuming
Hmm.
that will come in these next books. 'Cause I heard that he gets more heavy-handed as the series goes on.
Okay.
But I think Richard as a character, while he's pretty flawed in this book, he wasn't as flawed as he was in the first book. As I thought he was like a fucking lunatic. Um, especially like when he kicked that 9-year-old girl in the face and turned
Oh
her
yeah, fuck, I
jaw.
forgot about that. Jesus.
It turned her jaw into fucking, I don't know, fucking thousand-piece puzzle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, dude, how can anybody like this character? That's after I
Yeah,
read the first book. I was like, this dude is fucking something's wrong with him. Like, obviously, something's wrong with this guy.
for sure.
I didn't got less vibes of that in this book. I know the book before he was like he was like pissed off that one of his bodyguards was a lesbian. Like,
Hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And then yeah, this is probably um I would say it's my second favorite. I like the
After
first
two?
book. Yeah, I would say after two. Like I thought the plotting was a bit better, even though we did see like these weird kind of plot holes regarding the requirements to enter the Temple of the Winds. Even though I know in Purgatory, Richard talked with his father, and he's like, "Oh yeah, those are my requirements that I made so that you had to do them to get in." Yeah,
Right.
but he didn't fulfill the requirement like for the
True.
consummation. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
So,
forgot to mention that his requirements to go back to the world of the living was that he had to forget everything that he learned there, and that um, he was going to have the plague if he went back.
right, yeah, and he had his powers taken away too, right?
Yeah, he lost all of his powers. He had the plague, and um, he basically would die no matter what if he came back.
Right.
So that's why his task was like, oh, I'm just here to say goodbye and to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
But yeah, that plot hole, just like his irrational anger, um, And it's like, okay, like his anger about Nadine was pretty much justified
Yeah.
because she was just a terrible person. When he punched that magical man in the face, did you think that was an overreaction?
Yeah. A little bit.
And I remember he got, because they did eventually get married. So they do get married at the end. And another thing we see, um, him getting irrationally angry when Chandler slaps Kaylin in the face. When he knows fucking well that that's their greeting. Like,
Yeah, he knows that really well by now. Yeah.
yeah, and he's still getting mad over that shit. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, Kaylin knows better. Why don't you know better? Yeah. so,
He's
so
just
yeah, they
so
eventually
prone to
get married.
anger.
And I think they cack at the end of the book. I don't remember.
They cack?
Or they have sex or whatever.
I've never heard that for sex
Oh,
before.
that's like a mid-90s term for sex.
Okay.
That's what we used in high school to describe the act.
Oh, okay.
Cack. Um, I don't remember if they cack or not. I think they did, but I thought it was funny when she went to Shota and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not a virgin. Like I had sex with Richard already." She's like, "Oh yeah, where'd you do it at?" Like, in that space in between was like Shota's like, "Oh, that shit doesn't count. You're
Yeah,
still
yeah,
a
I remember
virgin in
that
this
part.
world."
You're still a virgin in this world because you fucked, but it was in the wrong realm.
Yeah. Well, you weren't using your actual bodies. I thought that was pretty funny. It's like Shota
Yeah,
knows what's up. She's not easily fooled.
yeah.
But yeah, I like this better than the first book. Not as good as book two. So I'll put this as my second favorite. So two's I think this was the strongest. I just had like those great elements with Kaylin. I thought those were the best written so far. Like her ruthless pragmatism, I guess we'll call it that. That Kaylin has in book two. And we can see she
Right.
kind of still has that like ruthless, pragmatic side to her. I think there
Hmm.
was like something that came up where she was kind of like ruthlessly pragmatic about it.
Right.
Um, uh, and then, yeah. So I'd say, yeah, this is my second favorite so far. I liked it better than book three for fucking sure. There and then book one, like I think I gave 2 stars. So and I gave book two and book three like 3 stars.
Right.
Like I
I
like
thought we
them. They're not like
didn't you
above
get
average.
didn't you give book two? Did you mean book four when you just said good book two? Because you said you gave
Oh, I'm
book two
sorry.
and
I'm
three
sorry.
stars. Because yeah,
I gave yeah, I gave book two and four 3 stars.
right,
I gave book three 1 star.
right.
And I
Yeah.
gave book
So
one 2 stars.
so book one was your third favorite then.
Yeah, it was my
So
third
I
favorite.
so I rate them like in order of best to worst. I would say two, 1, 4, 3, and you would say 2, 4, 1, 3.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But like the difference between one and three are pretty big.
Definitely.
Like
And
book
4 and
three is
3.
just
Every book in book 3. 1 and 3, 2 and 3, and 4 and 3.
yeah, book three is just I don't think I've ever given 1 star to a fantasy book. It was just that bad to me.
Yeah. I think I still gave it 2 stars. I give hardly anything 1 star though. I only give things 1 star if they're so bad that I quit reading them.
I if I quit reading it, I don't give it a rating.
Okay.
I will only rate something if I've read it like completely. Yeah, this was okay. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad. It was kind of just kind of right in the middle of there. So it's a pretty good book. It's an okay book. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not horrible. But it does sit right there in the middle with, and it's decent. It wasn't a
Yeah,
waste. This was a long ass book, but to
yeah,
me, I did not find it a waste of my time. I was
yeah.
entertained.
The pacing was pretty good for how long of a book it was. I think I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is there wasn't a whole lot of combat in this book.
Yeah, a lot of it is, there was some really good world building, and there actually was a little bit of character development, and the plot was pretty decent. Yeah, it was a lot of pretty good, interesting stuff overall. That, like you said, even though there wasn't that much combat.
Yeah, so yeah, there were loads of combat in book three. Man, I just didn't like that book. Like, ugh. I don't know what Terry Goodkind was smoking, but that book just didn't wasn't good. I yeah, book four is definitely a redemption. So far I was like, okay, he turned this thing around. I
Hmm.
wonder what kind of
Yeah,
critiques he got about that. Because
I
I was
was,
looking on
I was
YouTube, and
set
it's
to.
kind of universal that that is like one of the worst books that he's written.
Oh, okay, I was set to bail on the whole series after the third one, man.
So, what do you think now that you've read the fourth one? Are you still willing to pursue the next book?
Yeah, I'll still read book 5. I know you suggested we still read book 4 and 5, and I'm glad that you suggested 4 so far at least, because that one was pretty good.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. I was like, okay, this is okay. I'm not. Yeah, there's some little issues here and there. They're not big enough for me to like slam this book down and call it crap.
Yeah.
Uh, Even though book three was bordering on that, I think it's just the entire ending of book three is what made the book so bad.
I kind of
Um,
like blocked it out of my memory because because it was so terrible. So even perhaps at a subconscious level, my memory just goes, well, throw that out. Not important.
yeah, because there was no Kalen. Like Kalen didn't do anything in book three, and
Hmm.
in book four, like some of the best parts are when Kalen are off is off on her own. And I almost feel like at this point, Carrie Goodkind was like, okay. Um, Let me pay attention to Kalen here. And it seems like Kalen did a lot of heavy lifting in this book as well.
Yeah.
So it seems like any book where Kalen does heavy lifting is makes it's almost like that's a requirement for it to be a good book.
And Zed, because Zed was a lot in book 2 also.
Yeah, because I think personally, like for character temperaments, um, I like Kalen and Zed better than Richard.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too,
there's
for
just no
sure.
doubt about that. Like
Yeah,
Richard is
definitely.
take him or leave him, man. I don't really care for that guy. Like he's like extremely confident with himself. Um, he makes like he has irrational behavior like all the damn time. Um, and I know one of the scenes that we wanted to talk about is not it's not irrational. But there was a scene where Kara, after she was like healing from her injuries, she goes in and she wants to be executed by Richard. And Richard's like, "Oh no, I don't want to execute you, but let me let me go with your wishes here and try to kill you with the sword of truth."
Oh, right, yeah, the one I confused with a different scene earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets like all angry, he like works himself up and gets pissed and wants to kill her, and then like the sword won't let him kill her.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, the sword wishes that you not die. I was like, man, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
There's Richard for you.
Yeah.
Um, Well, anyway, yeah, it was decent. It was decent. 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, me too.
What, you gave it 3 as well?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So I guess we can move on to our next section of discussion. What did you read, man?
So I don't remember if I don't remember if we talked last week. Did we talk last week about no, I don't think we did. I read The Vampire Lestat, which is the second book in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles series that I've finally gotten into. And I like this one a lot too. I like the first one a lot, and I thought this one was really interesting too. It really starts building a little bit more of the vampire lore in this world, and instead of being from the perspective of the character Lewis, who is in the movie played by Brad Pitt, it takes place from the perspective of Lestat, who in the movie is played by Tom Cruise. And it's interesting too because I was thinking about this in comparison to not only the Interview with the Vampire movie when I was reading The Vampire Lestat, but also the Queen of the Damned movie, because you can see in this book that in the Queen of the Damned movie, I haven't read the book yet, but it seems pretty obvious that they took aspects of the book The Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned in the Queen of the Damned movie, because at the start of this book, The Vampire Lestat, it's about how Lestat has been sleeping for a long time and he wakes up and he becomes a rock star in the 80s in the book. And and so that's how the Queen of the Damned movie starts out. But then it goes back into the overwhelming majority of the book is Lestat's history and backstory and how he became a vampire, and the vampire who made him, and then the vampire who made that vampire, and going back into the history of the vampires and how they're different. They're kind of like different, like factions, and there's a bit of almost a hierarchy among vampires, and it goes through the different ways that he's seen being a vampire and the different ways that he's lived as a vampire, and how the similarities and differences between that and Lewis, the main character in Interview with a Vampire. So yeah, that was a really interesting book, and I'm looking forward to reading the next one.
Mm. So you would recommend those Anne Rice novels?
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that I finally started reading them.
Hmm. Well, I guess I'll have to put those on my list.
Yeah. They are good. They
Uh,
are kind of like the approach to vampires is more similar to the classic take on vampires like Dracula too. So I know you like Dracula, so you would probably like it for those reasons, I would say.
yeah, I would like to check those out eventually.
Yeah. So, oh, also yesterday I read this. It was a really good book. It seemed like a kind of a mixed mental arts book to me because he was so it's this book called Values with the S in brackets, because he talks about, I think he's an economist. I don't remember whether he is or not, but he talks about economics and how we should look at things through different values, and especially with it's kind of a multifactorial analysis about economics and how we should change our values for the economy because it's not doing well for the world, and in relation to climate change and people's quality of life. And I didn't realize how new the book was at first. It must have come out last year, I think, because he talks about COVID too. So he talks about shifting values in economics in relation to the effects of of climate change on the world, and the effects of the pandemic, and how politicians have made a lot of mistakes in these areas, and how we should he gets into the specifics of how we should do things to change these and try to do in efforts to do better jobs of trying to solve these problems.
Hmm.
And he talks about cultural evolution and innovation and then that kind of stuff too. So yeah, that all that's really made why it made me think of like it would really be a typical mixed mental arts book, I would think.
All right. I put that on my want to read list.
Yeah, it's by Mark Carney.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that. That I'm looking at the Goodreads right now.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah, so I also I bailed on this one because it was so boring. I'm gonna give up on my project or at least take a break from it because I've been researching and reading the works of Kant and then
Hmm.
reading his work, but then also commentaries on his other work. For example, I read the Cambridge Companion to Kant, and I was reading the Cambridge Companion to Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, but then
Hmm.
I got so frustrated that I bailed even on that because even Kant scholars explaining what the fuck Kant was talking about say they go into detail and say, and that's why right here he is actually unclear about what he's saying. So it makes me think, oh, it's not just me who thinks he's fucking confusing in the way he writes. Because he goes, like, there was this one paragraph I read the other day where it was a page-long paragraph describing what Kant means between the distinction between these two different terms and saying that ultimately he doesn't actually say what he means by this one specific aspect. So even though he doesn't realize it, his reasoning and logic are circular in this point. And I just got tired of reading such intricate and detailed parts that are like, I need to go back and reread each sentence after I read it to understand what I just read. And I love reading about and learning philosophy, but this is just too fucking much for me. So I bailed on that book.
So you
It was
bailed on the critique of it?
it was the Cambridge Companion to Kant's Critique of Pure Reason because I have read Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and that was even more frustrating and confusing than this. So I read this to try to understand that better, but even that, I was just like, well, if even Kant scholars say, yeah, he's being really unclear here, I'm just going to go with my initial instinct and say he's kind of a fucking confusing philosopher.
Well, there's very few ratings on this book.
It's probably not very popular. It's a very academic philosophy book.
Yeah, there's only like 3 reviews.
Oh, okay. Wow. Uh, so after I bailed on that one, I decided to go back into because I told you I've been rereading these Resident Evil books I got when I was a teenager that are novelizations of the video games. So I read
Mhm.
the one that's based on Resident Evil Zero. So I started reading yesterday the one that comes after Zero, obviously Resident Evil 1, the Umbrella Conspiracy, and it's exactly what you would expect. It's just, STARS members go in to investigate this old mansion that was actually housing secret Umbrella research projects where they were experimenting with the T virus and they created zombies and monsters. So there's a zombie outbreak in Raccoon City and they have to investigate this haunted mansion with all these monsters created by the Umbrella Corporation. So, yeah,
Well,
that's
I have
pretty
a
good.
question. When they're inside the mansion, are they doing like fucking puzzles and shit?
Yeah, yeah,
So even in the book, they're doing puzzles.
yeah, they
Oh, I
do that in
gotta
the
take
games
this
too.
little statue and place it
Yeah,
here, and it opens a secret door.
yeah, yeah.
I wonder how you novelize that. That's weird. Do they have to save their progress on typewriters?
No.
Do they
No, that doesn't
find
happen.
storerooms throughout their? Do they use herbs to heal themselves
No,
or first aid spray?
no.
No.
They do first aid on each other a few times, but not with any of that stuff.
All right, so they don't use the herbs or first aid spray. Was Jill in any of these novels?
Yeah, she's in the one I'm reading now, and
Is she
I'm
good at picking locks?
yeah. I'm remembering that now because I didn't remember this from when I read it from when I was a teenager, and since I've seen all the movies, I'm comparing, and since these are official novelizations of the games, I'm comparing
Mm,
that to the movies that I've seen, and that was one of the things I noticed about Jill Valentine. Oh, in the movie Resident Evil Apocalypse, Jill Valentine is a cop at the start of the movie, and that's how her character starts off. And in this book and presumably the video game, she started off as a thief before she became a STARS member.
oh, so she's good at lock picking.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what they say.
yeah.
uh, I wonder if my library carries any of these. They're probably too obscure.
I don't know. Yeah, they're pretty good. Like just for reading a fun novel about evil corporations conspiring to create evil viruses that unleash monsters upon the world that have to be killed. So all of these tactical military experts have to go and kill zombies and solve puzzles and kill monsters and stuff.
Hmm. I see you finished Dawn of the Dreadfuls.
Oh yeah, I like that one. That's a prequel to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And this is basically kind of it's not actually the start of the zombie apocalypse outbreak in Victorian England, which is what the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies series is. It's Pride and Prejudice plus zombies. So
Hmm.
I like this one more actually because it's like I said, there already has been a zombie apocalypse, but people think that it's been defeated at this point, so people think all the zombies are dead, but then there's suddenly a zombie at a funeral, so then the outbreak has started again. But it's at this point when all the girls who are in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies are younger, and their father starts their training with this stereotypical Chinese Shaolin monk training them to do things like behead a fly in midair with a knife and stuff
What?
like that, and is teaching them like martial arts poses, and then they learn how to fight with swords and ride horses and use muskets to kill zombies, and they have to fight back zombies. And one of the girls goes to live with this rich, fat, creepy lord and be his protector from the zombies. And there's this mad scientist who's capturing zombies and trying to reverse the virus, and there's some interesting stuff going on in it. I like it.
Okay. Another book I saw you put 4 stars on is Preventing the Next Pandemic.
Oh yeah, that was the one I told you about. It's one of the ones you sent me, that one by Peter Hotez, which I thought was really interesting because he talks about and because you've seen his Joe Rogan appearances, that he's a vaccine specialist, and he's worked on a lot of viruses and has designed some vaccines. So he talks about COVID in comparison to, and just in general, other diseases in other countries, and he talks about a bunch of other factors as well. It's a really interesting multifactorial book because he talks about how climate change has increased the rate at which people are getting viruses because they're leading to poorer living conditions, and how uh, political division has contributed to countries working together less in these organizations that are supposed to be studying viruses to prevent pandemics, and how all of these factors together create much bigger problems. So yeah, that was a really good book too.
Hmm. I started it today.
Cool.
Yeah, there's this part about how countries that are out in war um, have reemergences of these like measles and stuff that were
Yeah, I thought that was
previously like
interesting.
tame.
Yeah,
So
I
like
thought that
when
was
a country
interesting.
becomes unstable, like the diseases come back.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting, eh?
yeah, so far I'm only an hour in. I was like, oh, this is some interesting stuff on how. how these different pandemics can come about, like
Hmm.
at least on the modern era, like these
Yeah,
tropical diseases.
for sure.
Yeah, so I guess what did I
Yeah, so
read?
yeah.
I think I just finished what was that book? Um shoot. I just finished can't even remember the name. It was a long ass Collapse. A long ass nonfiction book. Another 27 hour book.
The Jared Diamond one, right?
Yeah, I liked it better than Guns, Germs, and Steel. Um, I thought it was more fascinating that he
Yeah,
liked
me
to
too.
focus on specific cultures and the environmental disasters that caused them either to wipe out or decline in quality. To me, like the most fascinating ones were the Pacific Islanders when he's talking about how Easter Island like deforested themselves into oblivion.
Hmm.
And, like comparing the different like Pacific Island civilizations with each other and how they dealt with different environmental disasters.
Hmm.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it has to do with, hey, we're kind of like on this path that's not very good, and we need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Which, and this book was written in like the early 2000s, so
Yeah. Yeah, and
during
it is.
Bush era.
Hmm.
So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a pretty good book. I would recommend it to anybody that's interested in anthropology. I kind of call it like a environmental anthropology almost.
Yeah, it
Like
is kind
like
of like that. Yeah. And
like
anyone
linking.
who likes Guns, Germs, and Steel will certainly like it too, I would say.
Yeah, I liked it better. He has like a less dry writing style in this book. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
What else did I read? For nonfiction or fiction, um, what did I just finish? And I'm almost forgetting what I just read. Oh yeah, I finished that Norse mythology, but we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I really liked rereading it again.
Yeah, it was fun. And I misquoted something about using fart as a propulsion, but it was using a fart laced with wine to blind a pursuer.
Right. Yeah.
uh, yeah,
There's some
the end
funny
of
stuff. There's some funny stuff that happens, like Thor dressing up like a woman to trick a giant into thinking he's marrying his wife.
yeah, and there's some pretty like nasty and depressing stuff that happens at the end.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, like all the
Ragnarok,
Loki stuff that happens before
for
Ragnarok
sure,
and
for sure.
Ragnarok itself is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, I finished that, and geez, what else did I finish? Um,
Check your Goodreads.
I would if I could look at it while I'm on the phone.
Oh, okay. Didn't you just check mine?
Yeah, I was at the desk. That's why I was
Oh,
able to
okay.
check it.
Okay.
Well, here's what I'm working on now. I'm working on Neverending Story. Started that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't even know that was a book, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a book. Apparently, Atreyu is supposed to be green.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some differences for sure between the movie and the book. The book was written by a German author
Okay.
in the 70s, and it's pretty good so far. I was like, okay, this tracks pretty much with the movie. Um, but yeah, what else did I? Trying to think of the fiction book that I finished. Yeah, just can't fucking think of it right at the moment. Oh well.
I'll go
I
to
think
your
that's
page on Goodreads.
yeah. I think I've been working on Wheel of Time still. I also started
Yeah.
reading Discipline and Punish.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. You said it's way easier to understand than History of Sexuality.
Yeah, some parts are really easy to understand. Like he does get still pedantic and semi incomprehensible at times. Like I think that's always going to happen with his books and writings. But in that first chapter, I was like, okay, I got you here. And then as we're getting to the end of the chapter, I was like, dude, why are you getting so weird and pedantic, man? And making up all these terms that I have to look up and see what the hell you mean by them.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
he makes terms up, like literally.
He does.
And
Yeah.
I gotta go out and look those terms up because he doesn't really explain what they are.
One of
And
them that I had to look up for one of my videos on history of sexuality was psychosexual, which I found out means basically either bisexual or anyone having anal sex with anyone, a like a straight guy having anal sex with a woman, or a woman having sex or with a like fucking a gay or fucking a straight guy in the ass with a strap on, or even that sort of thing would have you considered the same way as gay morally, like you're doing sodomy either way. So if anyone does anal sex, you are psychosexual.
yeah, I know in this book where I'm Disciplined and Punished talks a lot about the sovereignty of the body and
Mm-hmm.
how that changes throughout the penal system. I kind of like Madness and Civil because in this book it starts off with a pretty gruesome depiction of like a torture and execution.
Mm-hmm.
And I can swear that I read another book of his that had like something weirdly similar to that.
Yeah, something like that could have happened in Madness and Civilization.
But yeah, it starts off like with that. I was like, okay, right from the start, it's pretty juicy. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just like, I just finished the first chapter so far.
Oh, okay.
That's as far as I've gotten.
So
But yeah.
you read David Sloan Wilson's This View of Life?
Oh, that's what I wanted to pull up. That's definitely an MMA book, a mixed martial arts book. Like he talks about John Haidt and all the people that we worship, and about group selection. And I think this book is pretty convincing, um, of group selection versus individual selection. Did I upload this for you?
No, I would love to read it though.
Okay, yeah, I got to get this one to you because I think you would enjoy the arguments that he makes towards the group selection model.
Yeah.
It seems to me that that's really important when you're talking about evolution. It's not just, well, at least the evolution of groups is, I think, important because he
Yeah, for
talks
sure.
about how the body is almost in itself a collection of individual cells.
Mm-hmm.
So when we quantify the body, we don't talk about how all of these individual cells evolve together. Like even though we talk about an individual, that is not the smaller makeup of that person.
Yeah,
So I thought that was
exactly.
pretty interesting arguments for group selection. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one. That one was good.
Yeah,
So I'll see
David
if I
Sloan
can.
Wilson usually makes really good arguments for group selection.
So yeah, when I get the
Um,
chance, I'll have to upload that so you can listen to it. I enjoyed it.
awesome. Thanks, man.
I think I give it 4
So
stars.
So you also read two other books by Jeff Vandermeer, The Strange Bird and Dead
Ah,
Astronauts?
Yes, the dead astronauts makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
Yeah, so you gave
Um,
it 2 stars.
I didn't fucking get it. Like, I'll send it to you. I think it's possible that this just doesn't make sense in audiobook form. Because I had the ebook and I remember I started reading it and I was like, what the fuck? Here's what I recommend. Um, I would recommend reading all of the books in the Bourne universe before you even try that one because I
Oh,
think I would
which number is this? That's number
I think it's
2?
a sequel to Bourne, but there's a
Okay.
short story that makes the dead astronauts make more sense.
Okay.
And I had not known. If I had known that, I would have read the short story first.
Okay.
But these are all take place within the same universe. So Strange Bird, Bourne, Dead Astronauts. And I think there's one other like novella or short story that might take place in this universe. I'm not quite certain.
Okay.
But yeah, I had to watch a bunch of different reviews just to kind of figure out what this book was about. I
Yeah.
got through the whole thing, but I was like scratching my head because some of it is so weird and abstract that you have a difficult time just like conceptually bringing this story together. It's
Okay.
like if the guy was trying to write this book on acid. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's if you ever listen to it, you'll know what I mean. What do you? Okay, so did you write the review I wrote for that book?
No.
Do you see the review there? Tell me if you can find it there.
Sure.
Because if you click on it, my review should pop up somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Audiobook version of Dead Astronauts makes little to no sense. I may have to check out the print version to give this book a try.
Yeah, this book doesn't make a lot of sense in the audiobook version. It just, I think if you probably read the other books first, it might make a little bit more sense. So I read Strange Bird after Dead Astronauts, and Strange Bird has some characters from Dead Astronauts. So I was like, fuck, I wish I would have read this first. But
Also, Strange Bird comes before Dead Astronaut.
yeah, Strange Bird I liked. It was pretty good. It's like the perspective of a lab creation. Um, one of those experiments that comes from that company. Because you know how they have a bunch of biological experiments that get loose in the world.
Yeah.
It's an experiment from an offshoot like laboratory. I thought it
Okay.
was pretty interesting. Dead astronauts. Fuck, what is it about? Okay, I think during Bourne there's a certain scene where Bourne and not Bourne. I think what's the name of the main character? It's like a one
I don't.
syllable word. I forget.
I don't remember.
It's like Rachel and Wick, I think is the name of the character.
Okay.
And they're like going through the wasteland and they come across the like dead bodies of 3 astronauts. So this dead astronaut story is supposed to be the story of those three.
Okay.
And the 3 astronauts are I don't know, their story is so fucking strange and weird. I don't know how much you're like into that, but it is weird. It's like and there's some parts that are super repetitive because they're taking on the point of view of a non-human creature. So they just speak weirdly and think weirdly. It's weird trying to it's a non-human evolved creature with sentient intelligence, but doesn't think like a human. So when the author is writing from their point of view, sometimes it can be very difficult to understand. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. And because many of the POV chapters are from non-human characters that are sentient.
Okay.
And some human characters that are just weird and kind of nuts. It's just, I would, if you like Jeff Vandermeer, I know you do, like he's
I
kind
do.
of hit or miss. Like some of his stuff is fucking excellent. I think Bourne, I gave 5 stars. It's such a weird and entertaining story,
Yeah.
but
I
I
think
really
I
liked
didn't
it.
like that one as much as the Area X trilogy, but of course, Annihilation, I gave that one 5 stars because that was amazing. And then I didn't like the second one as much, but I like the third one a hell of a lot too. And I think just like as a whole, that trilogy, I like that a little bit more than Bourne, but Bourne is really good too.
Yeah, I like Bourne. It's just weird. Like you have a giant flying bear, and like there's a
Yeah,
final battle between him and what is Bourne? Just like this giant, like sea anemone squid type monster.
kind of, yeah.
And you have like a giant like Godzilla fight at the end of the story.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then you have all this weird like kind of bio. What do you want to call it? Because you could tell it's in the future, but the future of this world is not like hard technology, like computers and stuff. Like all the technology is like biological.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so instead of like a microwave, you might have like this creature made out of like flesh, and then you toss like a bowl of ramen in there. Like the
Yeah,
solutions are biological. So it's about creating a creature that performs that task.
right.
So instead of like having a machine do it, you design a creature to do it. So this is why this world of Bourne I found really fascinating, because I had never read anything like that. That was science fiction, but in such a way that I had not read anything like that.
Yeah,
And then
Jeff
it's weird too.
Vandermeer's
Giant flying bears, like that's
yeah,
certainly pretty damn strange.
yeah, Jeff Vandermeer is really good at writing some really weird and creative and unique science fiction stuff.
Yeah, so if you want to see even weirder shit, then I know you're probably not gonna like it, but it's worth checking out just because of how unique it is. I haven't read anything like it before. I just
Dead
didn't like
astronauts?
the yeah, the astronauts is super fucking weird. Like I can't explain how weird it is.
Okay.
Like it was hard for me to understand. And after I've watched a couple different reviews about it, I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But still, going through it was really weird.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure
But
I'll check it
yeah,
out. I'm sure I'll check it out
yeah,
at some point. I think I'm
yeah.
not sure if you said like there were a few in that last batch of audiobooks that you sent me where they were like there it was just the pictures for the book. If I open the file, it doesn't have the chapters of them, and there were one or two of the Jeff Vandermeer ones that were like that, but one of them you did actually send me the book. I don't remember which is which though.
Oh, you know what? I'll have to go through and check and see, because I just kind of threw a bunch of stuff in there and like changed the name of the folder so that I didn't have to send you individual books all the time, because it was
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
that's way
harder to
better.
do that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'd rather just throw all these up there and give you like make a main folder so you can access them all.
Yeah,
Because it was,
that's a good idea. I appreciate that. And then
yeah,
it gives me a bunch to read for a while.
yeah. So I just like all I have to do is say, hey, check the folder. There's new stuff in there, instead of having to give you like a link all the time.
Right.
Just makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, wow. So you said there was some empty folders, and it was a Jeff Vandermeer.
Yeah, one or two of them, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to take a look and see what I can find out for you.
Sure. Yeah, I never mentioned it before because there's so many other books for me to read in there anyway.
Well, even though I actually use that as storage, so it's not just to share it with you, so that I can store the shit and not have it like clog up my hard drive on my
Yeah,
computer.
yeah, that's a good
So if
idea.
one of them is incorrect like that, I need to fix it.
Okay.
That was Google Drive, and I can't get on Google Drive on my work computer. I'll have to check later.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, I don't see anything else. I didn't see anything else in your Goodreads there that you've read recently that we haven't already discussed.
Right. Everything else, I think we went over, and yeah, man. But yeah, I highly recommend Strange Bird. I thought that was pretty good. Um, but yeah, man. Um, but yeah, I guess we can start to wrap it up. You can go ahead and go through your plugs.
Yeah, check out my YouTube channel, Mindgasms, where last podcast I did was with Dusty and Cheezan and Chris, and we talked about the whole Joe Rogan apologies for spreading misinformation about COVID or the Decepticons, and him saying that clip of him saying the N word out of context. And we also talked about Justin Trudeau declaring or invoking the Emergencies Act to do some pretty authoritarian shit to crack down on the that trucker freedom convoy here in Canada. And then we also talked about the kind of scandal slash miscommunication with James Lindsay, who spreads a lot of misinformation about critical race theory, canceling the lecture he was going to go on the historian Thaddeus Russell's Renegade University to do on critical race theory because of this manufactured controversy over a podcast he did with the philosopher Stephen Kirshner over a year ago, in which they were discussing basically the history and culture of pedophilia and how that's changed. And just like, as you know, happened when I recently did a video talking about how the Spartans had ritualized pedophilia, people will just look at that title and take it out of context and assume that you're condoning pedophilia, when even if in reality, as I did, I said that it's the most evil thing I could possibly think of. So so yeah, check out those videos. And yeah, so sometime soon, probably either this upcoming week or within the next couple weeks, where you and Cheezan and Chris and I are our movie chat crew. We're going to talk about that new movie, Don't Look Up, with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill, and many others, which is basically supposedly a climate change satire about a comet that is coming to Earth and will certainly destroy all life on Earth, but the people in power are not doing anything about it. It's for a long time at first because they're too concerned about appearances and celebrity drama and popularity and wealth and all this kind of shit. And I think it's a funny movie. And yeah, I'll probably sometime in the next week or two, I'm gonna have a conversation slash debate with our friend Parker, who does movie chats with us, about Biden's quote unquote government crack pipes. And also, we're gonna talk at some point sometime soon about Trudeau repealing the Emergencies Act for the Freedom Convoy, and perhaps also about the whole Russia-Ukraine catastrophe that is going right on now too. So yeah, lots of stuff coming up. And I'll also be talking to both Peter Salmon sometime soon, who I've talked with about philosophy before, who wrote a biography about Derrida, and the philosopher slash writer slash podcaster Ben Burgess. I'm going to be talking with him again. And we're going to talk about how anarcho-capitalists never mentioned the anti-capitalist left-wing history of anarchism. So yeah, check out all that stuff on my channel, Mindgasms.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you guys for listening to our podcast about the Temple of the Winds. And I'm unsure quite yet what we're gonna do next because I am not done with the Wheel of Time. I think I'm on like chapter 18, but I think there's actually more chapters that I need to get through than I thought because it seems like I'm not two-thirds of the way through through the book. So I have to see how many chapters I'm going to be once I get to 66% of the book. 'Cause I think I'm
Okay,
like
should I maybe read more than like past chapter 20 for when we talk about it then?
you might have to, but at that point, I'm also going to listen to it again. So I'll let you know like how far I got um, through the book. Because right now I'm on chapter 18, but I was like, there's still, I'm like at 54%. So I'm not sure if the next two chapters are going to put me at 66% or not.
Okay. Some of them are pretty
So,
long, but yeah, it depends.
yeah, I think it may be a chapter or two longer than I thought, but I'm not quite sure yet. Not quite sure yet. So,
Okay.
in the meantime, were there any books that you wanted to discuss that we had already read and planned to talk about, but we didn't?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about maybe on my channel at one point, but we could talk about it on yours because you're the one who suggested it to me and sent it to me. We were gonna talk about maybe talk about Brett Weinstein and Heather Haying's newest book, 21st Guide to the Hunter Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century.
Or, yeah, we could do that. That sounds good. I'll have to re-listen just to get a refreshing. I'll
Yeah, I
re-listen
probably will
to
too.
two
Well, what were you
plus
gonna say?
speed.
Or
Um, trying to think if there's any books that we read that we just didn't, that we thought were good that we didn't talk about. I don't see any here.
like fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction? Hmm.
Yeah, I don't see anything recently. Um, okay. Yeah, that's good. Even then, I'll come up with some other alternatives during the week, like possibly a movie or something, an older movie.
Okay.
Because I know we got on a kick for a while. It was like a David Fincher kick or something.
Yeah, and I think there are more well, yeah, there definitely are more David Fincher movies other than the two I said I wanted to talk about on my channel, which are Fight Club and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. There are a bunch of other David Fincher movies.
Yeah, he's made a bunch of. Well, I didn't know he did a Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
He did? Oh wow.
I had no clue he did that. I thought it was somebody else. Unless,
Yeah.
well, let me click on that. Is that David Fincher? That doesn't seem like a David. Yeah, he directed it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah,
that
he
seems a
has.
little bit happier than I would expect him to
Yeah,
produce.
definitely. Oh wow.
Even though the ending is not like a happy ending in any
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
oh,
it's not the kind of David Fincher style, really.
mm,
He does have a distinct style, but his movies can be different depending on who writes them too. Because if I remember correctly, I don't think he writes most of the scripts that he for the movies that he directs, so they can be kind of hit or miss in that way a little bit.
mm. Yeah, another thing, I didn't know he directed Alien 3. Oh.
Yeah, that one, I don't. Yeah, I think I sent you. I don't even remember what channel it was on now, but I sent you guys this video in our movie chats group after I watched it about how how much of a production nightmare and how long it was and how long it took to get Alien 3 made, because they switched directors 2 or 3 times and the script was rewritten several times, and there were conflicts with some of the actors that they had originally planned on using.
Okay. So I'll say let's make it a tentative, the Brett Weinstein book,
All right.
and then possibly a movie. So I'm
Sure.
looking through some of these. Like, oh, these are interesting. I even thought of possibly going through and doing like all the Alien movies.
Yeah, I've mentioned that before too. I would love to do that on one of our channels, going through
Yeah,
all of them.
and it'll be like all of them. That includes Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, like all the Predator movies too. That's what I was gonna say. Like all the Predator movies and Alien versus Predator also.
Yeah, because they are very different. Like some of them are very different. Like Alien 2 is very different from Alien 1, and Alien
Yeah,
3 is very different from Alien 2.
Alien sci-fi horror. Alien 2 is like sci-fi action. Alien 3 is more like Alien 1, and then Alien Resurrection is kind of a combination of the first 3 in some ways.
Right. And then you have like the prequels, the 2 prequels, which I thought were pretty good. I know
Yeah, I
some people
like them
didn't like
too.
them that much, but I
Yeah,
like the
I know.
prequels.
Yeah, I know there a lot of people have heavily criticized them, but yeah, I like them too.
But yeah, we can explore the Alien movies, the Alien franchise,
Sure. Yeah,
and Aliens versus Predator.
if we're gonna do that, do you want to and watch all of them? Do you want to watch them in chronological order, kind of?
Yeah, definitely I would do it in chronological order. And what the fuck? There's a series planned for next year.
Oh yeah, I think I had maybe heard Daniel Green say something about that on one of his fantasy news segments, where he was talking about how there was a series planned.
Mm,
That would be cool if
well,
it's well done.
yeah, that's if it's well done. We'll have to see. But yeah, possibly Alien. Yeah, and I'm thinking which version. Hmm. I have the one on Blu-ray. I think I have the first one on Blu-ray. But
I think I have the original quadrilogy. I think I have all of the director's cuts of those. I had that DVD collection.
okay, so you got all the director's cuts. Okay. But yeah, if even that's tentative, I'll see.
Yeah.
I'll have something concrete at least by tomorrow.
All right.
Just have to see what kind of access I can get to this movie. And yeah, we'll see. See, like
Well,
so.
and if you wanted to talk about them in chronological order, it would make sense to start with the prequels first, right?
I'm talking about like chronological. Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. Because even Alien versus Predator happens before Alien.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because AVP1 happen happens before all of them, I think, actually. Because AVP1 is like modern times.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
And
we
it's
should just do it on
before.
release date.
Yeah, because that would make sense. Because yeah, they obviously in AVP there's Wayland who, and it's Wayland Industries who ends up being the evil corporation in the Alien quadrilogy with Ripley.
Yeah, you get to see like the origins of Wayland there. Um, yeah, let's do chronological
Okay.
as far as like when the movies were released. But yeah, publishing order.
Oh, in the order they came out, you mean? Like starting with the
Yeah,
first Alien?
yeah, the order they
Okay.
came out.
Okay.
All right. You know what, too? Like, we haven't done a documentary in a while. I feel
That's
like we
also
need to
true.
do one.
Yeah.
I wanted to hunt for documentaries to watch. I did watch one recently about avocados and kind
Wow.
of how crazy drug cartels got involved with avocados. I'm pretty sure it's
Oh,
not
that's
going to be the.
interesting, actually. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm not. Didn't know if you're interested in that. Another one I heard about that people are talking about is it's called the what's that freaking dating app called?
Which one? Tinder?
Yeah, it's called the Tinder Swindler. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I've seen it on Netflix, but I haven't watched it.
Oh, you
I'm
haven't
not
watched it?
I'm not really sure what it's about.
Yeah, so that's big right now. Another thing that's big is like some new South Korean show about, I think, zombies or something.
Yeah, I saw that too. The guys on that channel, Everyday Negroes, have been talking about it.
So I don't know. I'm thinking of doing something more current. So I'll let you know for sure tomorrow. Like
Sure.
I'll have to look at my list to see um, what's the best to do.
Sure.
But I'm thinking more documentary because we haven't done one in a while.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, I'll keep you up to date. If all else fails and I can't think of anything, it's going to be the Weinstein book. I'm probably fairly certain it's probably going to be the Weinstein book. If I don't give you anything by tomorrow, we'll stick with the Weinstein book.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right. All right, man. So yeah, like and subscribe. Check everything out here that we have. I still need to re-upload our Wheel of Time video. I'm going to go ahead and
Oh yeah.
edit it because I went and checked and they did not approve my appeal, apparently.
Fucking stupid, man.
Yeah, I had no misinformation to give about the Decepticons. I'm like totally vaxxed out here. You know,
Yeah, I
got my
know.
booster and everything, and I always recommend for people to get it. But yeah, we're spreading
Yeah.
misinformation. So
And,
I
l-
don't know what to
and
say.
like my video with Chris that got deleted, it shows that YouTube is okay with me talking about pedophilia, but not lab leak theory.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I'm probably going to try to get that up this week. It's just going to be edited, and I guess we're just going to have to edit out that last section.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. Because I know right after we did What Did We Read, I brought up the Decepticons, and I guess that's when they gave me the axe there.
Right.
So I'll have to edit it this week, and yeah, just stay tuned. I'd say join the Mixed Mill Arts page, but man, is that place getting weird. Uh,
A lot of it
yeah.
seems to be mostly tribal political shit nowadays.
Well, I don't know. The most heated parts about it is me talking about how Lindsay and those folks don't get postmodernism right.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think it's very controversial to say that.
I don't either.
But I don't know. I had a discussion with somebody. They're like, "Oh, Foucault is nonsense and it's useless." I was like, "Well, not
Yeah.
every philosopher is useful to everybody. Like, there are definitely some philosophers that aren't useful to me. Like, it doesn't have to be useful to you." I didn't
I
say
love
that,
lots
but
of I love lots of philosophy that isn't useful.
yeah, it's just like it doesn't have to be. Like, I read a lot of fantasy fiction. How useful is that?
Yeah.
So
You
anyway,
really like you should just read manuals if you only want to read useful things.
Manuals or self-help books,
Yeah,
language learning books, stuff
yeah,
like that. Uh,
yeah.
but
People
yeah,
really love really love Jordan Peterson and get triggered whenever he gets criticized too, of course.
well, I've been actually monitoring a couple of his like tweets and stuff, and it seems like people are concerned about the guy. Um, yeah, like I know there was a current, like there was a tweet that he retweeted, and it was about how Trudeau was um, relinquishing like the Emergency Act,
Uh-huh.
and Jordan's like ranting about that, and then everyone in the comments is like, "Yeah, he's relinquishing it. Like, should be
Isn't that
happy."
good?
Yeah, 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 exactly. So I don't know what's going on with the guy. You could take a look. I'll probably I'll send you the tweet, and you'll see like all of his like fans are like, "What are you doing, Jordan? What's wrong with you?"
Sure.
Uh, well, anyway, man, you take it easy, and we'll talk soon on my channel or yours, whichever one we go first. And yeah, that Ben Burgess on Joe Rogan really surprised me. Did you know he was going to be on Rogan?
No, I didn't. I was talking to him relatively recently. Like we were planning when we're going to talk on my channel next, and he had originally said a few weeks ago, yeah, I'll be pretty busy within the next couple weeks. Sorry to be so kind of vague about it, but I can't really say exactly why. So I think there's maybe some secrecy involved when Joe Rogan episodes are coming out. Like he doesn't want people to know that they're coming out before they're released.
Yeah, it seems like even when Kyle goes on Rogan, he doesn't say he's going on Rogan.
Yeah,
Kind of pops up there. But yeah, yeah. I guess he just couldn't really talk about it.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it
Sworn
was a
to
good episode.
secrecy until the episode's released.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, me
We had
too.
a pretty good conversation. Uh, but yeah, anyway, you take it easy, man. You have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, later.
All right. Adios. Until next time.